We love to walk, and really when you're exploring a city, there's no better way to get a feel for daily life than to get out and explore the nooks and crannies. It's not out of the question for us to wander 20 miles or more on foot, only to get back to the hotel at the end of the day, collapse from exhaustion, and start the whole thing over again tomorrow. We wander aimlessly, we wander with a point, but you'll be amazed at the things you discover when you break away from the tourist crowds. You'll also be amazed at the cab fare you can save walking to the airport, although I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Your spouse may not be too happy with you. Today we'll be exploring something a little closer to home, San Francisco, California. San Francisco is without a doubt my favorite city to visit, and with it being a relatively quick 2.5-hour flight away, it's a city we love to return to over and over. Founded June 29, 1776 by Spanish colonists, the city is named for St. Francis of Assisi. In 1821, it became part of Mexico, and finally on January 30, 1847, it was ceded to the United States. The gold rush of 1849 brought a population boom to the city. Yes, that's where we get the team name the 49ers from. Shortly thereafter, California is granted statehood in 1850. Right about the same time in 1852, Wells Fargo, one of the country's largest banks which is headquartered in the city, is founded. San Francisco was the largest city on the West Coast from 1870 to 1900, Los Angeles being the largest now. Much of the city was destroyed by an earthquake in 1906. It's hard to talk about San Francisco without talking about earthquakes. The 1906 quake was a 7.9 on the moment magnitude scale, killing more than 3,000 people. The fires that raged after the quake destroyed much of the city. We came across a piece of that history on our last visit. A fire hydrant credited for saving much of the Mission District, being one of the few that still had a water supply. Today it's painted gold to celebrate its importance. In 1989, the city was hit by the Loma Prieta earthquake. Some may remember the collapsed bridges and freeways. The destruction from this event leads to the transformation in areas such as the Embarcadero, removing freeways from the 1950s. The USGS estimates that there is more than a 70% chance of a 6.8 magnitude earthquake occurring in the Bay Area within the next 30 years, and a 51% chance of a 7.0 or above. The architecture of the city is unlike anything you'll encounter elsewhere, much of it built in the Victorian and Edwardian styles. One of the most popular views of the city is of the painted ladies from Alamo Square Park. You may have seen them in the opening credits of the TV show Full House. The homes were popular to construct because redwood was abundant in the area. These historic wonders sit in contrast with a modern downtown built for earthquakes. The city is heavily used as a filming location. In fact, when we were there just recently, 2 blockbusters were being filmed simultaneously. You'll find yourself face to face with memorable spots such as the home from Mrs. Doubtfire or the church from Sister Act, just to name a few. It's a very hilly city, so if you're planning to walk, bring a good pair of shoes. Lombard Street, probably the most famous winding street in the world, has a grade of 27%. Different neighborhoods throughout the city have their own unique histories and populations that make every spot worth exploring. There's the famous Haight Ashbury district. In the mid-century, the city went through a large decline in population, which led to a growth of counterculture with the Beat generation. The cultural center point for this movement was this district. I won't lie, the 60s were never really a time period in our history that I had a great desire to learn about, but after seeing the Haight, it was the first time I felt like I really would have loved to see this moment in history. It's easy to envision the movement. Of course, times change, and today the area is very commercial. I guess that's part of life. An area we always feel right at home in is the Castro. This neighborhood was one of the main locations for the gay rights movement and the home to Harvey Milk, an activist and city supervisor who was ultimately assassinated. The neighborhood is still popular with the LGBTQ community. While you may assume that everything in California is warm, San Francisco is a cold city. The location on the bay means that most of the year the temperatures hover in the 60s. You'll easily spot tourists that packed for sunshine only to buy hoodies at the first gift shop they can find. Yes, the first time my family went we made this mistake as well. With the weather comes one of the city's most beloved attributes, the fog. There's no prettier spot to capture a photo of the fog than the Golden Gate Bridge, although it's just as pretty without. Opened in 1937, it was the tallest and longest suspension bridge in the world. The length was overtaken in 1964 and the height in 1993. Construction on the bridge began in 1933 and cost $35 million, or the equivalent of $514 million today. It's 4,200 feet in length and has a height of 746 feet at 220 feet above the water. Its world-famous color, international orange, is used to increase visibility of the bridge. Do you remember the structure painted international orange in Tokyo? The bridge is a marvel of modern engineering and is worth stopping by multiple times on your trip. The walk across is loud, but affords you some amazing views of the city. Not to be overshadowed is the nearby Bay Bridge. Opened in 1936, the bridge is just under 4.5 miles in length. During the Loma Prieta earthquake, the truss section of the bridge suffered heavy damage, with part of the roadway collapsing. A new self-anchored suspension bridge was opened in 2013 to replace the old sections. Public transportation in the city gives a diverse set of ridership options. There's the world-famous cable cars, which is the last manually operated cable car system in the world. Constructed from 1873 to 1890, they were designed for the steep grades throughout the city. The cars operate from a consistently moving cable under the street grabbed by a grip. The car stops by releasing the cable and slowing with different brakes, including wooden blocks pressed against the track. These brakes are regularly replaced, and I can tell you that the smell of burning pine will forever remind you of this experience. The system at one point was in danger of removal, but luckily for all of us, it was saved and rebuilt in 1982. Today they are protected by city charter. It's only a small portion of the historical system it once was, as today only 3 lines exist. Alongside the cable cars, you can ride the streetcars. Originally introduced in 1892, the streetcar lines helped draw an end to the cable car system, while they themselves were phased out in the mid-century in favor of buses. In 1982, a special heritage line was created as a temporary replacement while the cable car lines underwent renovation. This system became a permanent line in 1995. Made up of mostly PCC cars, or President's Conference Committee, you'll find cars from all around the world, including these 1928 Milan Peter Witt streetcars. The city also has a system of light rail, subway, and one of the largest fleets of electric trolleybuses in the world. Of course, no visit to San Francisco would be complete without a trip to Alcatraz. The island was originally a military fortification during the Civil War, eventually becoming a military prison. In 1934, the government turns it into a federal prison. Think of it as the first supermax prison for the most dangerous and high-profile inmates. Famous ones included Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly. 14 escape attempts were made by 36 prisoners, and 5 were never found. Due to the high cost of maintaining the isolated facility, it was closed in 1963. Starting in 1969, it was occupied by Native American protesters for almost 2 years. The island is interesting, but like so many must-see destinations, once was enough. One of the city's more unique features is Land's End, a beautiful escape into nature right next to the city. We stumbled upon this area by accident years ago, and now it's always on our must-see list. A nice hike leads you back to the Golden Gate Bridge with views of the coast that never cease to amaze. San Francisco is a city unlike any other. It's diverse, it's beautiful, and living in the West, it's accessible to us. Given all the city's charms, it's no surprise that it's one of the most expensive places in the world to live. If I had the chance, I would move there tomorrow, but unfortunately, one of the things you discover with travel is that while you may love a destination, you might only be able to enjoy it from afar. But let's face it, the fun of vacation is dining out, visiting museums, taking in the sights, life without obligations. If we lived in the city of our dreams, would it become a nightmare? I can't say for certain. For now, I'll just follow singer Tony Bennett and continue to leave my heart there. Thanks for joining us again today. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. We look forward to sharing another destination with you soon.